I'm going to show you an insane sorceress build that's going to help you a lot with the early mid-game Act 1, Act 2, and maybe beyond there as well. We're also going to talk about some of the ways you can change it up, because not everybody's going to find the same gear pieces and stuff, and different ways you could build if you want to have it a little bit different for your personal play style. So if you don't already know, Sorceress is mainly AoE damage. It's not the greatest single target, but with a build like this, you'll still do crazy good single target. If you want single target, probably play Mercenary or something like that, but still pretty good. So this build, what we're going to really be focused on here, you're going to want to get Flame Wall. You're also going to want to get Spark. We're gonna want to get Frost Bomb. Then we're also going to want Orb of Storms. Alternatively, you could get Solar Orb instead if you want. But that's going to be the basis of the build. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of flair on this on top of that. But that's going to be like the core damage from the Sorcerer standpoint for the early to mid game. Now, keep in mind, you can also get occult abilities, which I personally do, actually. I think they're really good. So what you could do, if you have enough Spirit, you can get a Skeletal Warrior just as a distraction. But I definitely recommend getting Unearth. And then once you can, you get Raise Zombie instead, just have a tankier version. And this is just to bring up some distractions, because even though this build does crazy damage, unless you get really lucky with your gear and get something good, which I have not, I'm using a Wander. I haven't even found a good staff. Even if I wanted to use a staff, I haven't found a single staff that's good, for example, right? And this can happen to you too. So in those scenarios like that, if you get kind of screwed that way, then what you can do is you can get some occultist abilities in order to make up for it. And then just get like the skeletons or something, like, or get a scepter with some minions on it or something like that, or use Unearth and Raise Zombie, and that helps a lot. Also, another thing I highly recommend doing, and I personally like, is having Bone Cage. Now, I don't think I would have been able to get through the boss fight at the end of Act 1 without Bone Cage, because when there's enemies that just run at you and swarm you, if you have Bone Cage, you can just stop them and then just, like, you know, back up and just keep on unloading DPS. So it's really helpful in certain scenarios. Really, really good for just keeping the enemies from getting on top of you. Now, if you're like me and you end up stuck with a scepter, then you definitely want to use the Skeletal Warrior minion. If you want a crazy staff with spell damage, that's better. The main thing that you just want is you want a weapon that gives you spell damage, specifically, you know, spell damage up here. But if you can, you want one. See, this one says +1 to level of all chaos spell skills. What you're ideally going to want is +1 to all spells, or +1 to all sorcerer spells, or +1 to lightning spells, or something like that. Ideally, it's either all of your sorcerer's abilities, or you want it to level up your lightning specifically, because that's where the bulk of your damage comes from in most sorceress builds right now, especially for the one that I'm building right here. So that's really, really important, that plus spell damage on any weapon you get. But again, it depends on what gear you find, especially early to mid game. You know, if you're farming for gear, you might as well be leveling up and getting different gear, you know, so that, you know, whatever you get, you got to work with. And that same thing goes for the gear. Obviously, you want energy shield or energy shield and evasion or something, but if you find some badass helmet, you throw that thing on, you know what I mean? That's kind of just the way it works early mid game, Act 1, Act 2. As for the abilities on the left, okay, so again, we have Spark, Unearth. I got Ice Nova's experience, didn't work, so, but Spark, Unearth, Orb of Storms is good, Bone Cage, Frost Bomb, Flame Wall, and Skeletal Minions, Raising Zombies. These are all the things that we talked about, okay? Then for the support gems on these. Now, I don't have this on right now, but what you would definitely want to get is Arcane Tempo and put that on Spark. Now, I didn't do it because I was experimenting on this character. This is like a second character that I made, but I definitely need to get that. But yeah, you want to get Arcane Tempo, and then you're also going to want Pierce so that the Spark can pierce through more enemies. This is really good if you get backed up into a corner or something, to make sure that you can clear out like thick enemies really easily, so that way you don't get stuck, basically. And as far as the support gems, like I'm not going to have for most of these, because by this point in the game, unless you've went on farmed a side boss for like an hour or two, you're not even going to have enough support gems to get gems into every single ability. So I'm just going to go over some of the ones that I haven't talked about, some of the ones that are really good. So, for example, Flame Wall and Spark are the main two that you want to focus on. Flame Wall, what you're really, really wanting is you're going to want Spell Cascade, or there was one other one, if you prefer, which is called Fortress, and it makes the Flame Wall like go in a circle around you instead. It's up to you which one you prefer. I like doing the one over here, the, what was it called again? The Spell Cascade. Because even though I'm on PC, my shoulder's injured right now, so I'm just using a controller because I don't want to hold my arm up all day on the WSAD keys. But when you use controller, doing the controlled, like, where it goes is really impossible. It just throws it at a random enemy. So the erraticness of Spell Cascade works out better. So what that does is makes it so when you throw Flame Wall, it does 2 additional ones in, like, nearby locations. And so it's really good if you're on a controller, because you can't really control the damn thing at all, and it just kind of just goes at a random enemy. But if you have more precision, maybe prefer the circle one, so you just have to play it out and try it and see which one you prefer, if you want to try to prefer one, or you just go with the one that I had there. Now, I didn't mean to do that. I also had Arcane Surge on this just because I had it. I was just playing around with different things. I don't think you really need Arcane Surge. It was just on there. Another one I recommend getting early is Lockdown on the Bone Cage. So that way the Bone Cage is just more likely to pin the enemies because that's really all we're using it for. We don't actually care to do damage with it or anything. And then something else to have on, and if you do get these Skeletal Warriors, you definitely want to get Meat Shield and put it on them because we're not an occultist. We're not a witch. We're literally just using it because we're leveling and, you know, it happens to work out for you because of the gear you found sucking or something or whatever the way it played out. Just go ahead and get Skeletal Warrior minions. And then that will just help cause a distraction. And that's all we're using it for. They don't do a damage. You just want them to stay alive so that more of the enemies go to them while you just throw sparks at everyone and you just are unchallenged, basically. So they're not really helpful for the bosses, but for the just clearing random enemies, it's just so nice just having these things alive. Now, as for the passives, boy, do I have one worked out for you. At least all the way to like level 80 or something, I thought through this thing. So all we want is spell damage, anything that can increase DPS, spell damage, cast damage, lightning damage, whatever, something like that. So we have to pick and choose where we want to go. So to start off, you're just going to want to go up the tree normally like this and get spell damage. Then you get to here and you get elemental damage, okay, which is the best one because then it's all of them, not just like that and spell damage are both the best ones because it's just going to increase all damage. Once you go over here and get lightning damage, which again is more niche to get lightning, but lightning is our prime thing for the early game, so we're going to go with that. Elemental damage, you get up here. Now, what I would recommend for that early power spike is you go over here to the left and go over to here, and then get up here and get these ones that give damage to enemies affected by elemental ailments, because we're going to be shocking them, we're going to be igniting them, we're going to be freezing them, and so all those things combined is going to, you know, make these just work all the time. So you're just going to go on the left side. The right side increases the chance to inflict ailments, and maybe at some point you can come back and get that, but generally we're going to get the ailments, so I'm not really worried about proccing them. I'm more worried about just doing damage when we get them, okay? So then after that, the way that you can build, there's two different options now what to do next. You could go up here to this attribute and then get these ones for the lightning resistance so that Spark does even more damage. Not a bad idea. I still haven't decided which one to do first, okay? Or just if I'm going to, you know, come back to this later, what I'm going to do. But the other option instead is you can go over here, which we're going to do no matter what. Even if whether we get that or not, you're going to go over here. And then you're going to get this attribute. And then here's more spell damage. Spell damage, and then a 30% spell damage. Okay, huge. It's right there. You know, you're right up next to it already from where we're going. Definitely want to grab that. Then what I would recommend doing, this is what I'm going to do as I get through Act 2 and Act 3 and stuff, is you're going to go down here to this attribute, and then you're going to head over to here, and then you're in this area. You got 10% more elemental, 10% more elemental, and then 30% more elemental if you ignited an enemy recently, 10% elemental, 30% if you chilled them, and then another 30% if you shocked them, more elemental, more elemental, more elemental, more elemental. Like, that's a nearby one. You can get a huge power spike super early for all your damage types, not just this bread and butter spark, but also for everything that's proccing damage. The next thing you want to do is go back to the center area, and you're probably going to want to go up and up again, all the way to the top here, get a jewel socket, then head over here, and then you're going to get lightning damage, more lightning damage, more lightning damage, more lightning damage. And then also you could get the lightning resistance as well over here. Now there's some things over here I'm not sure about, but you know, there's another thing that you can do, which is you can come on from the, I don't know if it's the bottom or top's more efficient. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, so it's better from the bottom. If you go through and get this elemental damage, you can go up here, get this attribute, get this one, this one, and then you could get Eldritch Battery, and then you could also get the mana regen, and then this arcane intensity. If you decide to build that way. I'm still uncertain about that, but where that's a decent path to head towards over there. It would also bring you over here. You get this one, and then you could get lightning chain additional time. That would probably be the only thing. You might want. I don't know if that's good or not. I haven't been able to test it. I didn't get closed beta or something, but that sounds like that might be all right. Not sure though about that one. And then this other one, here you have some good ones as an option, which is spell can fire 2 additional projectiles. Haven't tested it. Sounds like it might be decent though, and it's right there. You know, you're not spending anything extra to go out of your way to get it. And then another one is you're up here. You can get critical spell damage and more importantly, increase critical hit chance for spells, because there's stuff that can proc off it. So anything increases critical hit chance is good. If you need defense, you know, you can get some stuff. You can go over here and get this cast speed and this cast speed, which Wouldn't be horrible to get anyway. You might just want to get these two at some point anyway, some early cast speed. But cast speed doesn't really increase the DPS a whole lot. Even at 6%, Spark goes from 54 to 57, and it's like, you know, it's good, but it's like, is it worth 2 levels? Maybe, but anyway, you could go over here and get some energy shield. You could at least get this one on top, so get some damage that gets to an energy shield or something. If you need some defense, you can work that in if that's what you prefer. Anyway, then after all that, we can go over here, up here, up here, up here, and then over here we got more elemental damage and 30% increased elemental damage. That's pretty huge. Then also over here you get increased critical hit chance, 20% increased critical hit chance if you haven't dealt a crit recently, and then another one, 20% if you haven't dealt a crit recently, and then these ones, not as much. I mean, the full life one is good, but it's not good for bosses, and bosses are the only thing to really care about. And these ones, if you killed recently, I prefer to build for bosses because the enemies are kind of just like so not a problem anyway. And then some other stuff. There's critical damage bonus, critical spell damage bonus, you know, more critical stuff here. And by this point, if you get all that, you're like level 80. Okay, so I should just stop there. But those are some good thoughts for you on which way. You don't have to go the exact way, but those are some really good options that are really close and nearby to one another and stuff. So definitely you could look at those ones. I recommend all those. Those are really good. So the big thing here, and I don't think I even explained why we get the flame wall. So like I went through all the things, but now you're probably like, what the hell? Like what are we doing with this? Flame wall has this thing where projectiles which pass through the wall deal additional fire damage, and the flame wall is not bad damage. So you throw that down, and then you throw spark. Oh, that's not sparks. Whoops. Throw sparks, and you see they turn red and blue when they go through. So if you look through this, if you look at the bottom left of the screen, you see how they're red and they're lightning. So it's fire and lightning. It just does additional damage, just period additional damage. Like, so the way this is generally going to work here. So I'll go ahead and play this out some. We're going to do that for damage. So what we're going to do is throw this down and throw sparks through it. But what I like to do is throw that down, throw down this orb, and then fire through the orb and through the fire. Or depending on which way I get positioned, you know, you go through the fire into the orb. As long as, you know, you can hit both, that's generally good. The orb will chain to enemies, so it's just a bunch of bonus damage for one quick cast like that, and then you're just doing a ton more damage. The big thing of this is just stacking things that just increase the amount of DPS you can do while, you know, you're firing sparks. The other thing is we have this frost one. It's the frost bomb or whatever it's called. It does that. And that thing actually does a crazy amount of damage, but also it can slow, it can freeze, it can apply that elemental that we need of the chill or frost or one of those ones, something like that. So it can help us do that proc for the additional damage. Now we have Unearth, and we also have the Raise Undead thing. So later on, you'll just want to use the Raise Undead thing, like this, even though you use a ton of mana, in order to keep the minions up. If you're in a hurry, you can just throw an Unearth and get the Scorpions up, but if your Unearth is not very high level, it's not going to be very useful, so, you know, you're going to need it leveled up. But the way this generally works is if enemies come near, I do that. I throw it on the bone wall to give me some space, throw down the fire and the lightning, and start blasting them, basically. So I can throw that down. I'm still fumbling my keybinds all the time because there's just so many of them. And then you just fire through all this into the enemies, and it just clears them, like, super, super, super easy. And that's pretty much the thing. So you throw that down, throw down one of these, throw down one of these, and then if you want, throw a frost bomb, and then just fire into all this. As soon as it goes away, throw another one, maybe refresh the one, throw another frost bomb. The frost bomb is a fast enough cast that you can kind of just slip it in without actually stopping for it, so to speak. It's like, it basically just gets thrown in while you're doing everything else. But yeah, I mean, that's like the core of it, right, is you just do that, throw this down, put a frost on them, keep casting, and then maybe summon some of the zombies in order to give you a buffer against them, and just repeat. And it's like the easiest build to do. It's hard for me to do while talking. So many buttons I need to do. If you're in a hurry, use Unearth, get a bunch of Scorpions, and just keep going. And that's like the flow. And it does insane. You see right there, it did insane damage. I mean, I'm sitting here at the beginning of Act 2, and I'm just deleting enemies like they're literally nothing. Like, they just get deleted. And it's really, really good. Like, and it does good boss damage. It's not like a mercenary, though, but it's for sorceress. You're still going to do, even single target's going to be extremely, extremely heavy damage. So, I think that's, like, everything. Now, as far as gear, like, if you can get things that will give you more damage in any way, shape, or form you want it, like this gives a critical damage bonus, huge, because armor usually doesn't give things for damage, so anything you can find that gives damage. You know, some life regen, a little bit of life regen is good, so you don't have to use potions. Like, it can save you in a boss fight if you just have a little bit of life regen, so you don't have to use your potions if you don't, you know, need to. And then just, I don't know, whatever good gear you can find. Guys, this is an early game leveling build. Like, so this is assuming you're going to find the most hodgepodge crap, okay? But the one thing that you're not going to miss on is you're gonna get skill gems, you're gonna get support gems. So those are the things you can throw them in first, and then get some insane value to make the game way easier, be able to get through the game way smoother. And then you can branch out any way that you want to branch out from that. You don't have to stick with this these exact things, but the core that I recommend that you don't abandon until you absolutely have something better is Flame Wall with Spark and Orb of Storms, along with the Bone Cage for stunning. And that's like the core. You get those things, and then maybe Unearth. I really do recommend Unearth or Raise Zombies just for the sake of distracting the enemies, basically. Makes it just that much easier. But you get those like 4 or 5 things, and you're set. And obviously the other things are good too. I do recommend them, but no matter what way you decide to build your Sorceress, if you just want it to be easy, you want to level easily, do those things, the game's going to be really, really easy. Now, is there some other build that's even better? Probably there's some way you could tweak it to make it better, but as a core, this should do the job, guys. So I hope that helps you out. If you have any comments, any suggestions, anything you want people to try or something you think is better, just go ahead and leave a comment so other people can look at it for information. You can look through the comments, see if someone else had a really good idea of something you could change, something that maybe you could try out if you're curious to try something different. Hopefully between me and anyone commenting, we can, get everyone, suited up, geared up here to be able to level up and play the game and have fun. So hopefully helped you out, guys. This has been my early game, Act 1, Act 2, maybe Act 3, and a little bit on Sorceress build to help you level up faster and get through the game easier in Path of Exile 2.